Alrighty, we are back with Dissident, Book 4 in the Transcendent series by Lisa Beeson. And isn't that a cool cover? We just did the prologue, and now, Chapter 1. Dun dun dun! It is good to be back, but I'm still so worried about voices. But here we go. Present day. Dr. Schweinhart's white-clad thugs dragged Val's limp and battered body between them into her cell. Without a word, they carelessly tossed her onto the hard shelf that served as her bed now. It was the only other feature in the sparse olive-green, windowless room, besides the toilet on the back wall and the metal drain in the middle of the tiled floor. Its gruesome function was best not thought about. There was no more comfort of a soft hospital bed. She was being punished. Every part of her was screaming in throbbing pain. She held in the groan that fought to escape as she landed hard on the unyielding shelf bed. They had stopped drugging her, so she felt everything they had done to her with a stark clarity. Ignoring the involuntary tears leaking from her eyes, she managed to lift her hand and shakily extend her middle finger at the thugs as they exited the room. As soon as the door closed and locked behind them, she spat out the blood filling her mouth from a cut on the inside of her cheek, then gingerly wiped away the tears streaking down her battered face. Her left eye hurt something fierce, and the vision was disconcertingly blurry and speckled with floaters. She closed it as a pathetic means to ignore the burning pain and the worry simmering in the pit of her stomach. Every day since Schweinhart had shaved Val's head, he had insisted on interrogating her. Most of the questions were about Ari. Whether Val knew the answers to his questions or not, she had made it seem like she did, but just refused to answer him. She wasn't stupid. She knew that it was the thought of her having key information that kept them from killing her. She was counting on it, biding her time and gaining her own intel from their questions so that she could use it against them in the future. She had taught herself early on in life to listen to the things behind the words people said to see what they truly wanted. It had become an ingrained habit to zero in on people's insecurities so that she could use it as a weapon to hurt them before they hurt her. These people had no clue where Ari was or why she had left Scion's Keep. They thought Val was working with some terrorist group, which meant that these terrorists must have been giving them trouble. Good. Schweinhart had an inferiority complex that he overcompensated for by trying to gain power. His position and/or job depended on the information Val gave to him, which could be a useful tool. But he was also afraid of failure and was willing to do anything to get Ari, which was bad for Val. Very bad. Until today, Val had taken her beatings like a good little soldier, not giving them anything useful. The only words she spoke were nasty jabs at Schweinhart, or Pig Lover as she liked to call him, to keep his ego in check. But it seemed they were quickly running out of time and patience. This was why they had moved on from open backhands to full-blown punches with closed fists. When Schweinhart had not stopped the thugs after a few blows, Val was scared that her big mouth had finally gone too far. Scared that they had figured out she was useless to them. Scared that they wouldn't stop until she was dead. Her primal instinct to survive had overridden her wish to keep Ari safe, and her traitorous mouth let it slip that Ari had left Scion's Keep to save Val from the demons. She told them that Ari disappeared right after healing her from the effects of the drug the demons had given her. Thankfully, he had not believed her. He had written it off as just the desperate ravings of a broken girl. With a disappointed nod from Schweinhart, the thugs had mercifully stopped pummeling her and brought her back to her cell. To distract herself from her pain and self-loathing for being so weak, Val's mind wandered. She wondered if Ari had been able to take on the demons. Had they possessed her like they had tried to do Val? Was she able to get back to Scion's Keep? Was she even still alive? Alvaro's words echoed in her mind. Heaven help you if anything happens to her because of you. Val had to survive this and escape to find the answers to these questions. Then maybe once she found Ari, they could join up with the terrorists that these goons were so afraid of and help them take this place down. That was the goal she was fighting for now. Trying to find a more comfortable position to rest her head that didn't aggravate the welts and bruises on her shorn scalp, she glimpsed the Phantom sitting in the back corner of the room. When they were keeping her drugged, the Phantom usually only appeared as a diaphanous human-shaped blur. At first, Val had barely registered the occasional appearance, figuring that she had conjured it in her drugged haze to keep herself from feeling so alone. Now, however, even though her mind was clear of chemicals, the illusion was not only back, it was in even greater detail. The Phantom was decidedly pale, blonde, and female. She was even wearing the same stupid paper-thin bubblegum pink jumpsuit they forced Val to wear. Scared that her mind had finally cracked beyond repair, Val closed her good eye and began quietly humming her medley of go-to show tunes. Thanks to the manic obsession of Val's first foster mother with anything Broadway, musicals had been Val's escape since she was a small child. They helped transport her to a special place in her mind, where, with the right song paired with the right lyrics, no challenge was too difficult to overcome. They took her to a beautiful world, splashed with brilliant light and color, where she could be her true self. A place that was hers and hers alone. It was a place where nothing could hurt her. The music gave her a sense of safety and inner fortitude that nothing else could. I never would have pegged you as the show tune type, a strained and slightly fuzzy female voice said. It sounded as though she was trying to talk over a radio station with bad reception. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Even though every breath was agony, Val hummed louder to drown the voice out. She suspected that she had a couple bruised and broken ribs among her numerous other injuries. Damn you, pig lover, and your brainless, ham-fisted thugs. You're not imagining me, the hallucination said. I'm a real person. I'm really here. Well, sort of. Unable to continue humming due to the pain. Pardon me. Val reluctantly opened her right eye to see that the blonde was now sitting against the wall across from her. Now that Val was observing her more closely, she noticed that the woman's face had a strained expression to match her voice, as though she was exerting a massive amount of concentrated effort to maintain her insubstantial presence. She was waif-thin and looked to be somewhere in her mid-20s. Even though Val had never seen this woman beyond this room, there was something familiar about her features that she couldn't quite place. Val panted out between shallow gasps. What do you mean, sort of here? She's some kind of ghost? She barely moved her split and swollen lips so that the surveillance camera on the ceiling wouldn't catch her talking to the wall. She did not want to give the scum-sucking monsters the satisfaction of knowing that her mind had actually cracked. The blonde smirked. No, I'm not a ghost. Not yet, anyway. She gave a quick, spiteful glance up towards the soulless black eye of the camera. What you see is an astral projection of my consciousness. My body is actually in the room next door, she said with a small jerk of her head towards the wall behind her. I've trained myself to bypass the pain of the chip, to use my ability. If you're real, then why didn't they see you? Oh, I forgot that Val's injured. Hold on. If you're real, why didn't they see you? Val discreetly flicked her eyes towards the door where the thugs had just exited. "Because I didn't want them to," the blonde said, as though it was obvious. Well, of course, Val thought as she let out a sarcastic huff of laughter, and was immediately rewarded with a sharp twinge of pain. The blonde continued to stare at Val in expectant silence. Fine. Why the hell not? Val thought with a resigned internal sigh. It was better to believe that she was talking to an astral projection than admit that she had gone insane. What else was there to do anyway? Anything to keep her mind off the pain. Why do you want me to see you? Val asked. The effort for the woman to overcome the electroshock from the chip surgically inserted in the back of her neck was obviously causing her a lot of pain. Val had accidentally shocked herself a couple times trying to use her ability against her captors, and she knew the pain was nothing to mess around with. "'Cause I want you to know you're not alone." Val internally winced. That was almost exactly what Ari had said to her back at Scion's Keep. How would things have turned out if I had just accepted Ari's help when she first offered it? Why do you care? Val threw back acidly, trying to mask the fierce pain and regret in her heart. I care because you're like me, the blonde said with a conspiratorial smirk. You have an iron core protecting a survivor's spirit. You have the grit to do what needs to be done. You don't know me, Val scoffed. We're nothing alike. Oh, why? The blonde asked. Because your suffering is so special and unique that no one could possibly have the capacity to empathize or understand you. We don't have time for your moody teen angst, Val. I need your help. And there it is, Val thought bitterly. Ari had been the only one to want to help Val for Val's sake. Everyone else just wanted something from her. Go away! Val closed her eye against the ever-present glare of the overhead lights, as if she was going to try to sleep. It wasn't worth all the pain the blonde was putting herself through to try to get Val's help. Even if she wanted to, Val couldn't help anyone in her present condition anyway. She could barely breathe, and the skin around her left eye was tightening with fierce throbbing pain. I know the pain you're feeling now is horrendous, but it's only going to get worse from here. Val abandoned the pretense of sleep and opened her good eye to see the genuine worry on the blonde's face. I overheard them talking. The first phase is over. Now they're going to try to break you down mentally. Well, it must be working. I'm already talking to hallucinations. Trust me, Val. I know their MO. They're going to try to convince you that they're the good guys and that everything's happening to you is somehow your fault. Val thought with a sneer. Good guys don't beat up teenage girls. They'll use your past against you by twisting it to mislead and confuse you. You can't let them. With control over your ability, they can do a lot of damage and hurt a lot of innocent people. Using her painful memories against her sounded an awful lot like what the demons had tried to do to get her to give up her body to them. If she could overcome a demon possession, then she could take on these chumps no problem. I am no one's puppet. The blonde must have read the scornful defiance on Val's face. This is serious, Val. They can plant a thought, a command, or a false memory into your mind to manipulate you or make you go into one of their dead-eyed drones, all for the greater good of the cause. Why didn't they just do that first? Val wheezed, skeptical. Why'd they bother asking questions? Beating me? If they could just control my mind. Because most of the time people either buy into their so-called great cause or they quickly cave from the torture. Sometimes even the threat of torture is enough. They leave the mind tampering to special cases. It takes a lot of combined effort to accomplish something like that successfully. The mind is a tricky thing to traverse without causing permanent damage. Her eyes darted away for a second, as if she was remembering something distasteful. Especially with someone as stubbornly defiant as you. They only want you compliant, not catatonic. How can I fight something like that? I'll teach you. What makes you think I can? I know you can, and so do they. That's why they're trying so hard to break you down. They're hoping that the fear of pain and isolation will make you more susceptible. But you're giving them a run for their money. The blonde gave Val a look of respect and admiration. How do they know I can? Because you left Scion's Keep and you ran off from the cafe multiple times. You shouldn't have wanted to do that. Why? Because that's what Gordon and his sons do. The longer someone is under the influence of their electrostatic fields, the stronger the feelings of safety and contentment are induced. The fields don't only keep your energy fields invisible to the outside world, they make you dependent on them to feel secure. That's why when you left, yet again, they decided to bring you here to the facility. For some reason, the fields aren't affecting people at Scion's Keep the way they used to. You were the first to leave, so they want to find out how you were able to overcome the compulsion to stay, the impulse to be afraid of the outside world without them. Despite the pain it caused, Val shook her head in denial. That's crazy. The Reinholds weren't working with Anaximander. The Reinholds are the ones trying to keep everybody safe from them. What the blonde was saying didn't make sense. At least, Val didn't want it to. For better or for worse, Scion's Keep and the people in it had become the closest thing to a home she'd ever had. No. The Reinholds aren't with Anaximander. Anaximander isn't real. It's just a bogeyman Marcus Reinhold created to scare people into following them when their other methods didn't work. Living through World War II taught him that nothing brings people together faster than fear and hatred of a common enemy. They are so convinced that they are right that they've blinded themselves to the evil they do, to the true cost of doing anything to accomplish their goals. Everything they, oh no. Everything they, she said, pointing to the camera in the middle of the ceiling, have done to you since you were little was meant to make you weak and desperate for the acceptance and security of tribe and family. They wanted to see if that would make you loyal and easy to manipulate into helping them when the time came. But they miscalculated. The only thing they accomplished was to make you independent and more defiant. What do you know about what I've been through? I know that you and your half-sister Claudia inherited your abilities from your father, Henry Marlowe. You and Claudia have been an experiment to them your entire lives. She paused to let that sink in. Then pity filled her eyes. And I know that your mother didn't intend to abandon you. No, she did, Val grumbled, fighting back the rage boiling in her veins. She went back to Mexico because she was scared of me. Yes, she left you all alone in that apartment, and that was a horrible thing to do. But even though she was scared and high out of her mind, she had every intention of coming back for you. The blonde pointed towards the camera again. But they didn't want her to. It was the first time you had manifested your abilities, and they were impressed. They knew then what a weapon you could become. They also knew that your mother would have gotten in their way or gotten you both killed because of her addiction. So they took care of her permanently. They killed my mother? She didn't abandon me? They convinced themselves that it was done in your best interest. It took every ounce of control Val had to keep her rage in check so the chip wouldn't shock her. She couldn't listen to this woman's lies. It was too easy to want to believe, to fall into the bottomless pit of false hope that her mother had actually cared. Well, what about the letter she wrote to Henry? They wrote that letter and paid Rosa off to take you to him. Henry had been getting pretty vocal about his own ideas for the direction of the cause. Taking your mother out of the picture and throwing you in his face was their way of reminding him who was in charge. That his status and everything he owned was only his by their mercy, and they could take it all away at any moment. Val thought back to the extra cash Rosa had reluctantly given to the gardener who had driven her onto the Marlowe's property. Unless some big spender decided to slum it at the crappy diner Rosa waitressed at, she wouldn't have had that kind of cash to just give away. Henry Marlowe had been working with these monsters the entire time. He gave Claudia and me over to them, his own daughters. It was all too horrible to even think about. But something wasn't sitting right. How do you know all of this stuff? Because he used to be one of them, the blonde admitted, looking down in shame. One of my duties was to remotely monitor you when they told me to, silently watching you suffer was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. She continued to look down at the floor, unable to meet Val's eyes. But it was all for the family's great cause, she said with a self-depreciating scoff. At least that's what they had drilled into me since I was little. This woman has been spying on me my whole life. Why should I believe you? Val wheezed. It could just be them, messing with my mind, trying to manipulate me. I'm not messing with you, Val. I swear on the lives of my children, she said, crossing her heart. I'm the only one that will tell you the truth. The only one that can. Why are you not with them anymore? They started off with noble ideas, but they crossed the line of morality a long time ago and haven't looked back, she said. And when I finally realized that I was nothing more to them than a pawn in their sick game, I had to make a choice. I could either go against everything I've ever known and choose the man I loved, or deny my love while my soul died more and more each day. I couldn't go along with them anymore, so I chose Trent and we escaped. We tried to stay hidden, going off the grid, but eventually they found us, and they destroyed the life we tried to make for our little family. A shadow of anger and regret passed behind her eyes before she focused back on Val. To punish me for going against the cause and being ungrateful enough to choose Trent over them. They took our kids away, and they killed Trent. She closed her eyes as tears slid down her face. They promised that they would leave my kids alone, though. So as long as I complied with their demands to stay peacefully at the compound and promised not to impede the efforts of the cause. They were hoping that with enough time I would get over the death of my unworthy husband and then willingly come back into the fold. Because what they did was done in the name of tough love, you see. She let out a huff of bitter laughter. I was devastated and broken, so I agreed to their terms. I had fought and I had lost. At the time, as long as they left my kids alone, that was all that mattered to me. Though it killed me to sit idly by while they committed atrocity after atrocity, I still complied. I didn't help them, but I didn't act against them either. I watched and I listened, complicit in their crimes by inactivity. She took a deep breath, and her eyes went from self-reproach to defiance, her voice becoming hard. And then those bastards broke their promise, so I broke mine. She glowered up at the ceiling with pure loathing, then calmed her features and looked back down at Val. But it was too little, too late, and now I'm here, shipped off to my own little outlet at the facility with the rest of the troublemakers that tried to help me. I can't let them suffer because of me, Val. I can't. A million questions tumbled around in Val's head. What and where was the facility? She defied them multiple times. If they killed Trent for defying them, why didn't they kill her? Why is she so special? Why does the name Trent seem familiar? Who are you? Val finally asked. My name is Diana. The name came with a flash of recognition, and the pieces began to fit together. Val knew why the woman's features seemed so familiar now. As in Mara's daughter? Val asked incredulously. As in the twins' mom? Diana nodded. How could Val trust this woman? What she had just told her contradicted everything Val had heard around Scion's Keep about the twins' parents. According to them, this woman and her deadbeat husband used their kids' abilities to steal from rich people. Then after they'd been caught, she crawled back to Mara, making a deal to leave her husband and let him rot in jail. Then she gave the twins up to Gordon without a fight. However, could Val really trust anything she had heard at Scion's Keep either? Diana must have seen the internal struggle on Val's face. Whatever you think you know about me is a lie. Were all the adults at Scion's Keep with them? How could she trust anything anymore? You can't. You can only trust in yourself. Pardon me. They said that Trent is in jail. He was. Diana paused as her bottom lip quivered. Until they paid some inmates off to murder him. How do you... Because they made me watch the damn security footage, she said, cutting Val off. A pained expression distorted Diana's face for a moment, before she regained control and the clarity of her features came back into focus once more. It was a live feed. They took their time. They made it as painful as they possibly could. Val conceded that the woman's pain seemed genuine. They also said you resented your kids, forced them to steal, then gave them up. All lies. Diana brought her knees up and hugged them close. I was 18 when Trent and I ran away from the compound. 19 when we had the twins. We had no idea what we were doing, but we loved our children with all our hearts. They were ours, and they were wanted. We weren't perfect parents, but who is? Trent was a skilled craftsman. His grandfather had taught him how to make pieces of furniture that were works of art. We sold Trent pieces at flea markets and craft fairs for good money. We were doing fine. We never made our kids steal. They were practically babies, for Christ's sake. We only had them use their abilities when we thought that they were onto us, and we had to get away or hide. I swear to you. It sounded like the truth, but it didn't make sense. Then why do the twins have memories of you, making them steal? I told you, they can mess with your mind and change your memories, she said bitterly. One time when their goons were on our tail, we snuck into a gated community to hide in a model home. Maybe that's the memory they corrupted. Soren and Skylar were so young. It probably wasn't that hard to convince them it was the truth. Val could tell that it truly hurt Diana to know that her children thought that she was a bad person who didn't want them. It terrified Val to think that they were actually able to change people's memories like that. Diana's astral projection began to flicker in and out. Please, Val, I can't do this on my own. I need your help to save my friends, to save my babies. Before Val could give an answer, the astral projection gave one last flicker and disappeared. And that was the end of chapter 1. I don't know if I went too heavy on the staticky voice. I'll have to listen to it back and see if it works. Ugh, it was painful to do the whole time, though. Jeez. Chapter could have been a little shorter. Hopefully the information made it across, though. Is that not wild? I forget what I even do at these interludes, at these end of videos. My goodness gracious. I've been gone for too long. Too long I have. I guess this is what I do. I just random talk, make noises, get distracted, sip a Coke. It's pretty empty. Sip of water. All right, I'm going to take a break and hopefully go on to chapter 2. We're doing it. We're doing it. We're here. It's getting done. Feeling better about it a little bit. A little bit feeling better about it. Just got to get going. Just got to keep going. Plug it, chug it along. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. Okay. See you for chapter 2. Peace.